In a sterile hospital room, Dr. Richard Harlan sneered at Aisha Thompson, a pregnant black woman clutching her belly, and said, "You people always expect handouts, don't you? I bet you don't even know who the father is." His words cut deeper than any scalpel, but 15 minutes later, Aisha's husband, Marcus, walked in, and everything changed. Aisha Thompson sat in the waiting room of St. Mary's Medical Center, her hands resting gently on her swollen belly. At 8 months pregnant, every movement felt heavy, every breath a little more labored. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow on the worn linoleum floor. She shifted in the uncomfortable plastic chair, trying to ease the ache in her lower back. Her appointment with Dr. Harlan was supposed to start 10 minutes ago, but she was used to waiting. She'd been coming to this hospital for months, navigating the maze of prenatal care with a mix of hope and exhaustion. Today, though, felt different. There was a tightness in her chest, a nagging sense that something wasn't right, not with the baby, but with the way the receptionist had avoided her eyes when she checked in. Aisha was 32, a high school English teacher with a warm smile and a quiet strength that had carried her through years of challenges. She and her husband, Marcus, had been married for 6 years, and this baby, their first, was a dream they'd nurtured through countless late-night conversations and careful planning. Marcus was a civil rights attorney, known for his sharp mind and unyielding commitment to justice. He was supposed to meet her here after a meeting downtown, but traffic had delayed him. Aisha didn't mind. She was used to handling things on her own, though she missed his steady presence beside her. Finally, a nurse called her name, and Aisha followed her down a long hallway to an examination room. The nurse was kind enough, asking routine questions about her symptoms and jotting notes on a clipboard. "Dr. Harlan will be with you shortly," she said before slipping out the door. Aisha nodded, settling onto the examination table, the paper crinkling beneath her. She smoothed her dress over her belly, feeling the baby kick, a small reassurance amid the sterile coldness of the room. Dr. Richard Harlan entered a few minutes later, his white coat pristine and his expression clipped. He was in his late 50s, with thinning gray hair and a reputation for being one of the best obstetricians in the city. His credentials were impeccable, decades of experience, glowing reviews from certain patients, and a long list of successful deliveries. But there was something about his demeanor that set Aisha on edge. His eyes, sharp and assessing, lingered on her for a moment too long, and his thin lips pressed into a line that felt more like judgment than concern. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Thompson," he said, glancing at her chart without meeting her gaze. "Let's make this quick. Any complaints today?" Aisha hesitated. She'd been feeling more fatigued than usual, and there were occasional sharp pains in her abdomen that worried her. She explained her symptoms carefully, choosing her words to sound clear and composed. "I've been really tired, and there's this pain on my right side. It comes and goes, but it's been more frequent this week." Dr. Harlan barely looked up from the chart. "Fatigue is normal at this stage. As for the pain, it's probably just gas or Braxton Hicks contractions. Nothing to worry about." His tone was dismissive, as if her concerns were trivial. Aisha frowned, her hands tightening on the edge of the table. "It doesn't feel like gas. It's sharp, and it's only on one side. I just want to make sure everything's okay with the baby." He sighed, setting the chart down with a deliberate thud. "Mrs. Thompson, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm talking about. You're fine. The baby's fine. You're just overreacting." The word overreacting stung, but Aisha pressed on. "Could we do an ultrasound just to be sure? I'd feel better if we checked." Dr. Harlan's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, he looked directly at her. His gaze was cold, calculating. "An ultrasound? Do you know how expensive that is? You people always expect handouts, don't you? I bet you don't even know who the father is." The words hit Aisha like a slap. Her breath caught in her throat, and for a moment, she couldn't speak. The room seemed to shrink, the air growing thick with the weight of his words. "You people." She knew exactly what he meant. Her skin prickled, not with fear but with a deep, simmering anger. She was a teacher, a wife, a soon-to-be mother, And yet, in this man's eyes, she was reduced to a stereotype, her humanity stripped away in a single sentence. "Excuse me?" she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "What did you just say?" Dr. Harlan didn't back down. He leaned forward slightly, his voice low and cutting. "I'm saying you're wasting my time. You come in here with vague complaints, demanding tests you don't need, and expect me to just comply. This isn't a free clinic." Aisha's heart pounded, but she refused to look away. "I'm not demanding anything. I'm asking for proper care. I'm pregnant, and I have a right to know my baby is okay." He scoffed, crossing his arms. "A right? You think you can just walk in here and tell me how to do my job? I've delivered hundreds of babies. I don't need you questioning my expertise." The room was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Aisha's hands trembled, but she kept her voice calm. "I'm not questioning your expertise. I'm asking you to listen to me. And what you said about you people, that was uncalled for." Dr. Harlan's face reddened, but he didn't apologize. Instead, he picked up her chart and scribbled something, his pen scratching loudly against the paper. "We're done here," he said. "Come back in 2 weeks for your next appointment. If you're still having issues, we'll deal with it then." Aisha opened her mouth to respond, but the door opened and the nurse reappeared, sensing the tension. "Everything okay?" she asked, her eyes darting between Aisha and the doctor. "Everything's fine," Dr. Harlan said curtly. "Mrs. Thompson was just leaving." Aisha slid off the table, her movements slow and deliberate. She wanted to say more, to call out his prejudice, to demand respect, but the weight of the moment pressed down on her. She felt small, vulnerable, and acutely aware of the life growing inside her. She wouldn't let this man's words endanger her baby. She walked out of the room, her head held high, but inside, she was reeling. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall, taking deep breaths to steady herself. Her phone buzzed in her purse, and she pulled it out to see a text from Marcus. "Stuck in traffic. Be there in 15. You okay?" She typed a quick reply. "I'm fine, just finished with the doctor." But her fingers shook as she hit send. She didn't want to worry him, not yet. She needed to process what had just happened, to find a way to put it into words. Aisha made her way back to the waiting room, her mind racing. She'd faced prejudice before, subtle slights, assumptions about her intelligence or her background. But this was different. This was her health, her baby's health, in the hands of a man who saw her as less than human. She sat down, staring at the floor, replaying Dr. Harlan's words. "You people." The phrase echoed, each repetition fueling her resolve. She wouldn't let this go. She couldn't. 15 minutes later, Marcus Thompson walked through the hospital doors. He was tall, with a commanding presence that filled the room. His suit was slightly rumpled from a long day, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the waiting area until they landed on Aisha. He knew her better than anyone, and the moment he saw her face, he knew something was wrong. Her usual warmth was dimmed, replaced by a quiet intensity that set his instincts on edge. "Hey," he said, sitting beside her and taking her hand. "What happened?" Aisha hesitated, her throat tight. She didn't want to cry, not here, not now. But Marcus's gentle squeeze of her hand broke through her defenses. She told him everything, the pain she described, Dr. Harlan's dismissal, and the words that had cut deepest. He said, "You people always expect handouts," she whispered. "And he implied I don't know who the father is. Marcus, he didn't even listen to me. He just judged me." Marcus's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening with a controlled fury. He was no stranger to racism, both in his personal life and his work. He'd built a career fighting it, case by case, in courtrooms and boardrooms across the city. But hearing it directed at Aisha, his wife, the mother of his child, was different. It was personal. It was a violation. "Stay here," he said, his voice low but firm. "I'm going to talk to him." Aisha grabbed his arm. "Marcus, don't. Not like this. I don't want you getting in trouble." He looked at her, his expression softening but resolute. "I'm not going to do anything reckless. But I'm not letting this slide." You deserve better. Our baby deserves better. Aisha nodded, trusting him. Marcus stood and walked to the reception desk, his strides purposeful. I need to speak to Dr. Harlan, he told the receptionist.
Now.
The receptionist, sensing his authority, nodded and picked up the phone. A few minutes later, Dr. Harlan appeared in the waiting area, his expression a mix of irritation and curiosity. Can I help you? He asked, his tone clipped. Marcus stepped forward, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge. I'm Marcus Thompson, Aisha Thompson's husband. I understand you had an appointment with her just now. Dr. Harlan's eyes flicked to Aisha, then back to Marcus. Yes, I saw her. Everything's fine. She's due back in 2 weeks. Marcus didn't flinch. That's not what I heard. I heard you dismissed her concerns about pain and fatigue. I heard you refused her request for an ultrasound. And I heard you made comments, racist comments, about her and our family. Dr. Harlan's face stiffened. I don't know what she told you, but I provided appropriate care. If she has complaints, she can file them through the proper channels. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Oh, we will. But let's be clear. You didn't just dismiss her concerns. You insulted her. You stereotyped her. And you put her health, and our child's health, at risk because of your bias. That's not just unprofessional. It's dangerous. The waiting room had gone quiet, patients and staff watching the exchange. Dr. Harlan shifted uncomfortably, aware of the eyes on him. I don't have time for this, he muttered, turning to leave. You're going to make time, Marcus said, his voice cutting through the air. Because I'm not just Aisha's husband. I'm a civil rights attorney, and I've spent my career holding people like you accountable. You think you can treat my wife like she's less than human and walk away? You're wrong. Dr. Harlan stopped, his back still to Marcus. The room was thick with tension. Marcus continued, his words measured but unyielding. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to order that ultrasound for Aisha right now. You're going to ensure she gets the care she deserves from someone who respects her. And then you're going to explain to your superiors why you thought it was acceptable to demean a patient based on her race. Dr. Harlan turned, his face flushed. You're threatening me? No, Marcus said evenly. I'm promising you. I know your record, Dr. Harlan. I know about the complaints filed against you over the years, complaints that were swept under the rug because of your reputation. But that ends today. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you did. And if there's even a hint of retaliation against my wife, I'll have every lawyer in my firm on this hospital's doorstep. The weight of Marcus's words hung in the air. Dr. Harlan's confidence faltered, his eyes darting to the receptionist, who was pretending to focus on her computer screen. He knew Marcus wasn't bluffing. The man's reputation preceded him. Marcus Thompson didn't make empty threats. Fine, Dr. Harlan said, his voice tight. I'll order the ultrasound. And you'll assign her to a different doctor, Marcus added. Someone who knows how to treat patients with respect. Dr. Harlan nodded curtly and walked back to the reception desk, barking orders at the staff. Within minutes, Aisha was called back for an ultrasound, this time with a different doctor, a woman named Dr. Patel, who greeted her with a warm smile and listened carefully as Aisha described her symptoms. Marcus sat beside Aisha during the ultrasound, holding her hand as the technician moved the wand over her belly. The screen lit up with the image of their baby, healthy and strong, the heartbeat steady and reassuring. Dr. Patel confirmed that the pain was likely due to a minor issue with Aisha's positioning, easily managed with rest and slight adjustments. Aisha felt a wave of relief, but more than that, she felt seen, heard, respected. As they left the hospital, Aisha leaned into Marcus, her voice soft. Thank you, she said. I didn't know how to fight that. Not in there.